At this point, we've been able to build our application, but we haven't yet added any styles to it. Now, I am not the best at styling, but one thing I know is that a quick way we can use styling is by using Bootstrap. Now, we're going to head over to getbootstrap.com, and we're going to include our CSS via a CDN. So instead of going ahead and downloading Bootstrap, we can be able to apply a link within our HTML, and we shall be able to apply things such as CSS as well as JavaScript for our application. Now I'm going to do is to head over to the include via CDN part, and I'll copy the link for our CSS. Now go back to our code right in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is to go to our base.html that is at the root of our templates folder. Now since this has the layout for everything we have within our web pages, I'll just have to include it within our head part of our HTML document. Then I'll go ahead and save. Now head back here and also use the JavaScript. So this is going to be useful in implementing our responsive header. So one thing I'll do is to also go down below the footer just before the ending body tag right here. Now I'll go ahead and save. So let me enlarge this a little bit. So when you go back to our web page and refresh, we can now see that our Bootstrap has been installed. Now the next thing we're going to do is to change some of the HTML that we have right in here. So I've collected a bunch of snippets that can be helpful to help us be able to structure some of the things that we need on our web page. Now these are going to be styles for our blog posts, our post details, our footers, our intros, and our navbar. And we shall also implement some other styles as we go on in the video. So what I'm going to do is to first of all copy this within our VS Code. So I'm going to go where this is located, and I'll get this folder. So I'll basically go ahead and install it in our VS Code or copy it to our VS Code. So I'll choose to copy the entire folder. So this folder is now within our VS Code. You'll check it down in the link below. The code is actually in the link below, so if you need to get access to these snippets, they'll be included. So I'm going to go to our navbar, and the first thing I'm going to do is to copy this navbar where we have our actual header. So now we have a very simple header, but this header is not style, and therefore it doesn't look really nice. So one thing I'm going to do is to select everything within our navbar and then head over to our base.html. Now what I'm going to do is to come just above this header that we implemented, or before the links that we actually put here. Then I'll go ahead and save. So when you go back to our document, we're now going to have our heading from, or our header or navbar from Bootstrap. So let's go ahead and also try to include the links that we have in our navbar. Now these links are being rendered based on the fact that a user is signed in or signed out, and that is a condition we have as if user.is authenticated, and else we also render some other links. Now what I'll do is to just go ahead and basically get rid of some of the links that we have here, or what I'll do is to actually include the exact links that we need. So I'll begin with our navbar. So here we actually have our navbar. I'm going to change this to our TDD blog. And after doing that, now I'll also have to replace the href. So instead of having just a blank href, I'll include the one for our homepage. I'm just going to copy this URL part right here, and then I'll go ahead and basically place it within our homepage. So I'll just paste it right in there. Now I'm going to do the same thing for our home. I'll do URL. Since I'm using the Django VS Code extension, I can just be able to basically say URL, and then I provide the name of that specific page. So I'm going to provide our home page. Forgive me for that. So hope you can see this clearly. Now I'm just going to come and provide our home page. So once I've done that, then the next thing is going to be to include other links to other pages such as our, so let me scroll down a little bit. We have pages such as our logout page. So I'll also include that, but before I include that, let me first include the register and the login. So we also have a drop down here, which is not going to be doing that much, so I'll have to remove it, and then I'll go ahead and basically paste this for all the links that we're going to be using in our navbar. So I'm going to paste this link and then add another link and another link. So let's call this the one for our registration, or let's say it's going to be the one for our sign up. Now we're also going to call this the one for our login, and we're also going to include the one for logging out. Let's actually first add the one for creating our posts. So right now we're going to have one for creating our post. So let's call this our create post, and then right here we shall also have the one for our, let's say, user profile. We're going to implement those when we actually go further into that video. So we shall implement one for our user profile. Now we're going to also add the one for our logout. So in here I'm just going to come and say log out. So once you have this, now I'm going to basically save, and when you go back to our web page right here, we're now going to see that our links have been added. However, there are some links that are still disabled, just like you see for the logout. And when you go back and save and refresh, we now see that our links have all been added. But given the fact that these are rendered basing on whether we are logging in or logged in or logged out, some of these links shouldn't appear. So that's where our if statement right here comes in, the one we wrote for implementing the navbar in the previous videos. Now we're going to do if user.is authenticated. So I'll just copy this and then I'll head over to our web page right here. So inside here we're going to put this if statement. So just going to come right below where we have our home link, because that can be accessed even when we are logged out. So I'll just paste in the statement, and then what I'll do is to basically provide those links that we need to access when we are logged in. So we have the logout link, we have the create post link, and the home link. So just going to come right here, and then what I'll do is to basically paste them just above these links, and then I'll put our else right here. And once we have our else, then I'll go ahead and end this if. So I'll just come right here. So I'll say else, and then right down here, I'll just come and say we're just going to come and end our if. So I'll just come and say end if. And when I go ahead and save, this time when we refresh, we now we actually have else. So it seems like we have a mistake we've done. So it seems like we have end if else. Seems like I'm doing a simple mistake here. So let me remove this for now. Then save. When I refresh, we now see that our links are being shown, and now we are logged in. So when you log out, these links are unresponsive simply because they do not have href tags. So when you try to provide one for logging out, so let's try to provide URLs for all of them. So I'll come, we don't currently have a profile page, but we have a logout page. So we actually have a logout link. So we can provide the URL by coming right here and saying href, and then in here we can say that we're going to have our URL, and in this case it's going to be the one for logout. So this is something we implemented in the previous video. So when I save and go back, I'll refresh, and now we can be able to click on this link and log out on our application. So now we have only links to our sign up, login, and our home page. Now for the search feature, we shall implement that in the coming videos. So now after implementing that, let's go ahead and try to change this so that we have our posts styled as well as our introduction right here. So within our snippets, I'm going to go back within our snippets. I created the intro.html, which I'm going to copy right here, and I'll go back to our home page, which is our templates posts index.html. Now in there, I'm just going to come and paste this introduction right here. So if we refresh, we're now going to have our simple introduction right here. But the problem is that everything is so near our margin. And to fix this, we are going to put this in a container so that our entire layout is within our container. Now I'm going to head over to our base.html, and then I'll restructure our web page. So I'm going to first of all get rid of the structure that we have. We created a header, but now our content is just in a blank space. So to fix this, I'm going to create the main tag. So just going to come and create a main tag, and within our main tag, I'll also provide for this a class, and I'll call this our container class. So given the container class, we can be able to push things a little bit inward to make them look at least not so far from the margin. So I'll just come and paste our content right in there, so everything will be within the container element. And now we see that everything is going to be pushed just in the middle of our page. Let's go ahead and also change this. So right here we have welcome to our blog. These are the latest posts. So I'm just going to change this to welcome to the TDD blog, and this is a simple web application we built while learning test-driven development with Django. So just going to go ahead and remove what is at the top. So just come in our index.html and then get rid of what we had here. So when we refresh, we now have it at least looking better. So right now we're also going to go ahead and style these post elements. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to also make use of a snippet that is within our snippets, and I call that blog post, which is right here. So that's actually a blog post detail, but we have this specific blog post, which is just an article tag with a class of blog post. Now I'm going to copy this right here and then head over to our index.html, and instead of just rendering this simple post div, we are going to render our article, which is going to actually have more detail. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, and when I refresh, we're now going to have our posts being rendered in a more beautiful way. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and also fix this so that we actually have actual data that is from our database. Now to do that, I'm going to go ahead and change this. So in our post, we have our sample blog post. So we're going to replace this with the actual title of the blog post. Now just come right here, and then I'll say post dot title, and then I'll also go ahead and basically provide the date at which this post was created. Now I'll just come right in here and say post dot created. I don't know if I call this created, but it may be created at. So I'll head over to our posts, and then within our models.py, I'll confirm we actually called it created at. Now inside here, I'll say we're going to have post.created at, and then in here we are also going to have a link to the user's profile. So for now, we haven't yet implemented the user profile, but we shall do that in the coming videos. So I'll just come right here, and then I'll include the author of the post. So in this case, I'll just put post.author, and in here I also go ahead and add our post body. So I'll just come and say post.body, and in this case I'll use the truncate words filter. So I'll just come and say truncate words, and I'll specify that we're going to truncate the post by 30 words, and then I'm going to go ahead and save. So when you head over back to our home page, and I try to refresh, we are now going to have actual data that is coming from our database, which is looking a little bit nice. Now we haven't yet styled our sign up form. So if we head over to our sign up, I think the link is not yet included, but let's go ahead and work on those. So when you head over to our base.html, and we can go to our header, and then within our header, we can be able to fix our links by adding those to our login and sign up page. So to do that, I'm just going to come right in here, and here we're going to actually add our sign up link. So I'm going to check add the URL, and then this is the URL to our sign up page, and then we're also going to go ahead and add the one to our login page. So I'll just come and say URL, and then in here we're going to have login, underscore page. So when I refresh, or when I actually save, when you go back to our web page right here, we can now be able to access these web pages. So if we head over to our sign up, we just have an ugly sign up form, just like the one you see here. When we also head over to our login, we actually have an ugly login form, just like the one that we're having here. So to first fix things, I'm going to first of all work on our footer, so that instead of just having this small text right here, we actually have an actual footer. Now to do that, I'm going to go ahead and include our footer snippet. So I'll head over to our snippets folder and then include our footer. So just copy our footer and then place it within our base.html. So this is actually where our footer is, and now I'm going to go ahead and save. So when I refresh, we are now having our simple footer that has been added in here. Problem is that this footer is not actually centered, or it's not away from our margin. So to fix that, what we can do is to go ahead and basically add it within our container. So I'll just come right here and then I'll place this within our container so that we actually have it just after our content, but within our container. Now when I refresh, right now we can be able to go back to the top and we can basically see our link right here. So you can also add this as a link to our home page by saying URL, and then in here we can have our home page. So I think this is our home page, so let me try to actually check this out. Yes, it's our home page. So when I save, I'll refresh, and now our page is actually good. So when you go back, now it seems like everything is working just like the way we expect it. So let's go ahead and also work on the styles of our forms. Now styling forms in Django is a bit tricky, and let's go ahead and make use of a very important third-party package called Django Crispy Forms. Now Django Crispy Forms allows you to style Django forms without having to actually change the inner functionality of these forms. It helps you to be able to manipulate these forms and change the way they look without having to basically go ahead and mess up the way Django works. So for us to get started with Django Crispy Forms, I'm going to go right in our code. I'll open my terminal and then I'm going to go ahead and install Django Crispy Forms. So I'll stop our server from running, and then inside here I'll open my terminal. Within my virtual environment, I'll begin by installing Django Crispy Forms. So I'll do that with pip install then Django Crispy Forms. And once I've done that, then I'll go ahead and press enter to go ahead and install our Django Crispy Forms. So once Django Crispy Forms has been installed, I'll head over to our settings.py of our main project folder. So that's what we called my blog. Within our settings, I'll head over to our installed apps list, and then within our installed apps list, I'm going to go ahead and add our third-party app of our Crispy Forms. So I'm just going to come here and add another comment here saying that these are third-party apps. Now inside here, I'll just come and say Crispy. So in this case, it's going to be Crispy Forms. And once I've done that, the next setting we have to add is a Crispy template pack, which just helps us to basically use Bootstrap with Crispy Forms. So I'm just going to come right here and say Crispy. In this case, I'll just come and say Crispy and then Forms. And then actually it's going to be Crispy template pack. Sorry for this. And this is going to be our Bootstrap. So I'm just going to come and say I shall use Bootstrap. Now when I save, I'm going to go ahead and try to style our sign up as well as style our login. So our server is not running. Now pull up our terminal and then go ahead and run our server with Python money.py and then run server. So once we have this, now the next thing we're going to do is to head over to our web page, refresh, Now our web page is actually back. So for us to be able to fix these styles, we're going to go ahead and use Django crispy forms. Now to do this, we are going to be able to use crispy form tags, and these are just going to allow us to basically organize these fields and make them a little bit more organized. So the way we do that is by going to the individual templates where those forms are, and then we load the crispy forms tags, as well as going ahead to use our filters for our form fields. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and style our first form as our sign up form. Now head over to our templates for our accounts. So within our templates, we shall go to accounts, and then shall head over to the register page, which is basically our create account page. So in there, I'm just going to get started by first of all loading our crispy form tags. So to do that, I'll just head over at the top after our extends tag, after inheriting our template, and the first thing I'll do is to first of all load our tags. Now to do that, I'll just come and say load crispy forms and then tags. And once we've done that, then the next thing is going to be for us to be able to use the crispy filter on our form. So to do that, I'll just come and say form and then filter, then I'll just basically come in here and say crispy. So after saving, I'm going to go ahead and refresh, and now we see that our form fields are now organized. So we now see that our form fields are now organized, and you can be able to also go ahead and add some styles within them by overriding this user creation form. If you didn't check out the videos, it's what we use to implement this form right here. Now let's do the same thing for our login page. So in our login page, we can go ahead and basically go ahead and also do the same thing. So I'll just head over to our login page. Now before I go to our login page, I'm going to go ahead and add styles to our button here. So I'll just come in our input of type submit, and I'll add a class which is going to be a bootstrap class of btn, and then I'll call this our btn primary just to make it styled well. So I'll go ahead and save. When I refresh, we're now going to have our button change just like the way you have it here. Now we can also go ahead and add some line breaks here to make it a little bit far from the footer. So we now have something like this. Now let's head over to our login. So right here on our login, we only have two fields, our username and our password. So to style this up, we shall do the same thing. So I'm going to head over to our login.html. And then what I'll have to do is to go ahead and load our crispy form stacks. So to do that, I'll just come and say load, and then in this case, we shall say load crispy. So it's crispy forms and then tags. And once we've done this, now let's go ahead and try to refresh. So I'll refresh our page. And since we haven't yet actually put crispy filter on our form, it hasn't yet been crispy. So I'll go ahead and try to add the crispy filter. So when you add the crispy filter, when I refresh, we're now going to see that our login page has been styled. Now I'll also do the same thing right here. So on our login button, I'll go ahead and add our bootstrap class of btn primary, just to make it look a little bit more styled. So when I go ahead and save, we're now going to have our button change. Now I'll just basically add some more line breaks just to add some space. Then we shall have this forgot password, and then I'll also go ahead and add this so that to make our footer go back. Forgive my HTML skills. So once we refresh, now we shall have our footer just somehow away from our button of type submit, just like you see right here. So for now, we've been able to style our login and our sign up form. So we have been able to add some styles just like you see for now. So let's go ahead and try to also style our post creation page. Now when you log in into our application, I'm going to log in with an existing user. Then I'll press login. So this will log it into our application. So once we have this, then we can go ahead and try to style our create post. So I actually also never included this. So I'll head over to our base.html, and where we actually have our create post, I'll go ahead and insert that URL for create post. So I'll just come right here and say that we're going to have our create post. And once I have that, then I'll go ahead and save. When we refresh, we shall now have our link to our create post page. So when you head over here, we just have a simple blank form that's not doing anything and it looks weird. So there are many ways we can style this, but let's first add crispy forms to it. So to do that, I'll head over to our page for creating a post. Now I think that is within our posts, and then create post.html. Now in here, the first thing we're going to do is to load our crispy form stack. So I'll just come and say load, and then I'll simply include our crispy forms and then tags. So once I've been able to do that, I'll go ahead and also add the crispy filter. So instead of rendering this as paragraphs, I'll just come and say form and then crispy. So I'll go ahead and save. So when I refresh, we're now going to see that our form has been styled. Now there are very many ways we can actually go ahead and also add widgets or style this form according to the widgets that we have right here, and that is within our forms.py. So what I'm going to do is to first of all add a heading right here, just to help us to be able to tell the user that this is for creating a page. I'm going to do that by saying create post, and I'm going to go ahead and save. So when I save, we are going to have create a post, and then we are also going to have the form being rendered right here. So now I'll also go ahead and add some line breaks just to style this, to make this a little bit spaced. So I'll go ahead and save. So when I refresh, we're now going to actually have our page just like this one. Now I can go ahead and also style this just to demonstrate. So what I'm actually going to do is to first of all add our classes, and I'm going to basically go ahead and put our class for posts or our class for a button in Bootstrap. And once I've done that, now let me demonstrate how you can add your own custom classes to these forms. So to do that, since this is a model form, all we have to do is to go where we define this model form within our Python. Now to do that, I'll just go ahead and locate our forms.py within our posts, so which is this one. Now in here we actually describe the model, which is post. Since this is a model form, it's going to pick its fields from the model, which is our post model, and the fields that we're going to actually make use of are the ones for our, so in this case we're going to have our fields, and these fields are going to have the title to be the title and the body fields. Now if we need to style this up, what we can do is to basically describe how we want these fields to be. So to do that, I'll come here and say that we shall begin with our title field, and this is going to be our form char field. So just going to come and say it's going to be forms dot char field, and within here we can specify the max length. So we can just come and say that let's say the title should be 50 characters long. And then after doing that, we can also add our widget. So within this widget, we shall be able to basically customize the way we want this field to be rendered. So how we may do this is by basically defining the widget of this specific form field. So there are very many widgets, but for char fields, we always use the text input widget. So just going to come here and say that we shall add our text input, and we shall create this as an instance of the text input class, but this takes in attributes, and these attributes are the actual HTML attributes. So the way I'm going to do that is by providing the attributes, and this attributes is going to be a dictionary. So in here we can be able to define the different dictionaries. Now let's say wanted to add a class, the Bootstrap class, or let's say form control. So let's say I wanted to make this form control. We may save, and then when you head over right within our post creation page. When we refresh, we shall now see that our form is now styled with a class of form control. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for our body. So to do that, I'll go ahead and also define our body. So our body field, and this will be a char field, but it's going to actually be a widget of text area instead of text input. Now I'm just going to come here and say we shall have our text area, and then it will also have the same attribute. So we shall have our class, which is going to be form control, and then we shall be good to go. So actually this is going to be our body. Sorry for that. So when we save and head over to our page right here, when I refresh, shall now see that our form field has now become styled by Bootstrap, which is good. So for now, we've been able to add some basic styles to the different pages that we have. However, we haven't yet done that for our maybe password field. So let's actually log out. So right now, when we go to our login, we can go to our forgot password, and now we can add some styles here. So to do that, we need to head over to the specific templates which are in our accounts. So we shall begin with our password reset. So now within this template, we are going to begin by first of all adding our crispy forms. So I'll just come at the top right here, and then I'll load our crispy forms tag. So I'll say load, and then we shall add our crispy forms, and then tags. And once I've done this, then in here I'll just come and add a filter. So I'll just say crispy. So when I go ahead and save, I'll go right in here and refresh. So it seems like this has not yet been styled. I wonder why. So let's actually see load crispy forms tags, and then it's actually not styled. I don't know. I wonder if we are making a mistake, but let me try to style this button. So head over and I'm actually going to add our class of, just going to come and say class, and here we shall add our btn, name btn primary. So I'll head over here and try to refresh. I don't know why this is not. This is actually for our password reset confirm. So we actually forgot. We need to go to the exact password reset button, which is the one right here. So I actually did the mistakes. Forgive me, guys. So what we need is to first of all go to the right template, and that is going to be our password reset. Now in here, I'll first of all load our crispy forms tags. So I'll do that by saying load, and then in this case we shall load our crispy. So we shall load our crispy forms tags. And once we've loaded our crispy forms tags, now just come here, and instead of rendering our form as paragraphs, we shall render it as crispy. So I'll go ahead and refresh. And now we see that our password form has been created. Now to fix this, we can also go ahead and put our form within our form field, within a form group, just to make it a little bit organized. So just come and say .form group, and then in here we shall add our crispy form. So in refresh, we shall now have our form within a form group. Now let's also go ahead and try to, I'll just insert a line break just to make it a little bit spaced. So when I add the line break, I'll save and refresh. Now going to see that this is a bit spaced. So I'll go ahead and also add our class of btn, and then btn primary. So when I save and refresh, we now see that our button has been changed. So let me also go ahead and do the same thing, just to make our footer a little bit spaced. So I'm doing it manually, but you can also do it with CSS. So once we've done this, then the next thing is going to be, let's actually try to reset our password. Now in here, we see that an email has been sent. Just want to use this to go to our password reset confirm. So when I go here, I'm going to copy this link and I'll paste it in here just to help us go to the reset password page. Now in here, we actually added crispy form stacks to this, which is good. We can now set our password and reset our password, which means we have now so far styled most of the pages that we have for our application.